wannabe 멋짐 내 맘대로 걸어 kick it 머리 어깨 무릎 다 힙해.
What is the difference between bi and pan? Bisexuality is an attraction to multiple genders, while pansexuality is an attraction to people regardless of gender. So let's say in regards to colors, you only like pink, green, and yellow. But I like any color, and I don't have a favorite, I just like any of them. That's one of the main differences between bisexuality and pansexuality. Wait, I thought bi meant you're only attracted to two genders. It just means multiple. What if I like all genders, every single one of them? That would be omnisexual, even with a preference? Yeah. And what if I'm only sexually attracted to someone I have an emotional connection to? That would be demisexual. And if I'm only attracted to trans men and non-binary people, I'd have to be pan, right? No, they're all trans inclusive. Trans men share the same gender that cis men do. Unless you don't see them as men, it makes no sense to change your sexuality for them. And are you attracted to women also? Not at all. Okay, then that's not pan. Okay, let's just make sure I have the basics down. Pan means I like people regardless of gender. Yes. And bi means multiple, but not necessarily all. And being trans is irrelevant? Exactly. It is nearly impossible to fight transphobia on this app, especially when it's a hot topic. There's just like a cycle of people trying to fight it, transphobic people getting mad, Clock app listening to the transphobic people, and then suppressing and hiding us trying to fight transphobia. But notice how I said it's nearly impossible. I'm not giving up. I'm gonna bring back my series, Dysphoria Diaries. Dysphoria Diaries was a series where I opened up my world to both trans and cis people and shared my experiences that I have with dysphoria. But this time around, we're gonna focus on everything, not just dysphoria. I'll make vlogs, we'll learn about words and what they mean, and whether you're cis and an ally, transphobic, or trans yourself, we're gonna learn and grow together. Because I'm just gonna be very honest, as a trans person, it's very scary for us right now. There are so many misconceptions about us, and it's only growing stronger because no one's regulating it on here. I think in order for there to be change, some people just need to see it to believe it. So let me show you. I don't know why, but I really don't want to make this. Okay, so I told you guys I would start being more open with you, and I definitely meant that, and I'm definitely gonna do that. And there's so much to unpack. So I began by telling you about my mental illnesses, such as bipolar depression, anxiety, panic attacks, OCD. And I also told you guys about the long-term effects drug use has had on my body, such as speech problems, memory problems, and motor tics. Don't do drugs. But I also have a pretty big developmental disorder too, actually. And I actually wasn't diagnosed with it until I was an adult. But when I was diagnosed, they said it was very obvious. I'm autistic. Surprise. That's why I'm so cool and smart, by the way. So yeah, I don't know why I was afraid to say that, but I guess I did it. I'm autistic, so you guys are the first people to know. The more I'm saying about non-binary people, the more I'm realizing I have no idea what it means. Okay, well, non-binary is any gender or identity that doesn't exclusively fit into the binary of man or woman. Why did you emphasize exclusively like that? Because some non-binary people are man or woman aligned, which basically means they like and feel comfortable with certain characteristics that come with either binary gender. Is that why some people use he, they, or she, they pronouns? It's one of the many reasons why someone may do that, but remember, pronouns aren't a straight line to gender. How do I use he, they, or she, they pronouns? You need to ask the person using them to know for sure, but typically they'll want you to use both. So don't just use he or she, it's gonna irk them like no other. So are non-binary people trans? Non-binary is such a broad term, it's not really possible to say all or none of them are trans. It completely depends on each individual. So non-binary doesn't mean anything specific at all. Exactly. People tend to think of non-binary individuals as androgynous and right in between man and woman, but it literally covers everything in between and outside the binary. And that's why there's no one way to look, express, or be non-binary. Which is true for all genders. I learned so much today. Guys, I want you to meet Rain. They're trans. Oh my god, you just outed me. I don't understand the problem. You talk about being trans all the time. No, definitely, when I introduce the conversation myself with people I know and trust. Oh, don't worry, they're not problematic. Yeah, the issue isn't really them being problematic. The issue is that announcing you're trans kind of opens a Pandora's box. Suddenly, it's the only topic of conversation, it's the only characteristic of mine they'll see, and for some reason it always introduces a lot of very personal questions. And I understand it because people are curious, but I want to go through all that with them when I decide it's time to. For a while, I just want to be Rain. I mean, it's not like it's that personal. A lot of cis people don't understand that it is. When a trans person opens up about being trans, it puts them in a very vulnerable state, both physically and mentally. It's not like we're just telling you about our day. That kind of vulnerability and stress should come when I decide it's time, not upon introduction. Can I ask you kind of an invasive question? Typically no, but I'm curious, so yes. You talk about bottom growth a lot, but what is it? Oh, bottom growth is something that happens to people that are assigned female at birth when they start HRT, but more specifically testosterone. And it's just your clitoris growing in length and girth. That sounds painful. Oh, for most people it is. What now? Yeah, there's like this insane sensitivity. It's impossible to describe. If anything touches it, like you cry. If you move, you cry. It hurts. How long does it last? I would say bottom growth for most people begins after a few weeks to 2 months, and the pain is pretty much concentrated in that time. But it slows down and continues growing without yelling for years. If you stop T, would it go back? It's irreversible. I have stopped T. It hasn't gone back. Interesting. How much does it... It depends, honestly. Bottom growth is completely different for everyone. Some people don't even experience pain. I learned a lot today. What are your pronouns? My pronouns? I don't want to address you incorrectly. It's just a formality. Well, then look at me! God, this generation is so soft. Why is that your go-to response when society makes progress? Pushing for equality is the opposite of soft. I think you just don't like it. See? Soft. What? Okay, do you believe trans people are real? No. How about now? No. But definitely now, right? No. Well, why not? It's not like it's due to facts, logic, or reasoning. I don't live in your fairy tale land where you get to change your gender. Your reality is the fairy tale land, dude. Think about it. We have biology, social sciences, personal experience on our side. All you have is your stubbornness. God! Well, my religion's texts disagree with the ability to have congruence with your assigned gender. Wait, what? No. I'm literally... It's impossible. No! Well, would you look at that? Listen, people wanting to make a world where everyone feels accepted is not soft. But you know what is? Letting your biases control you. Fighting against equality sure makes it seem like you can't thrive in a world where you aren't just given the upper hand. That's pretty soft, dude. I'm non-binary, but I don't look non-binary. Like, I'm really femme. What does that have to do with being non-binary? Is my presentation not relevant? It is and isn't. Let's talk about it. Some people do use things like being feminine or masculine to express their gender, so it can be gender expression like you're describing. But they are not tied to any one gender. You could use masculinity to express that you're genderqueer, androgyny to express your womanhood. Think back to when looking pretty like a boy was popular. People were using both masculinity and femininity to achieve gender euphoria. It's much more complicated than people think. So it can be gender expression, but it's not tied to typical gender roles. But remember, there are people that express themselves as masculine, feminine, whatever, completely apart from their gender. But I couldn't be like a trans man in this feminine, right? No, you very well could be. Being trans doesn't mean your expression options are more limited than a cis person's. Remember, the way you express yourself doesn't negate your validity. This applies to trans people too. That makes sense. I don't know why I never thought of it like that. I learned so much today. Happy Trans Day of Visibility, and to celebrate, I thought we'd knock out some more misconceptions about trans people. Gotta start with this one because everyone's confused by it. The reality is, this completely depends. While being non-binary is under the trans umbrella because if you're anything other than the gender you were assigned at birth, you're just trans, not every non-binary person feels different than what they were assigned at birth. Not every non-binary person feels comfortable being trans. The answer is you do you and you're valid. This one also confuses a lot of people. There are a lot of trans people that don't discover they're trans because of dysphoria. And of those people, some discover they've never experienced dysphoria at all. That is valid. Gender dysphoria is a common but not the only way to know you're trans. And that's part of why it's valid to not want to medically transition. People that say this don't know the difference between gender and sex. Gender is more societal while sex is biological. And while for cis people, they line up, for trans people, they don't. And it's very real. Have a great day, and don't forget to boost your favorite trans creators. If it's all men, it's all women. We can generalize too. No, you can't say all women falsely report when it's at 2 to 10%. The reason we generalize is because 97% of women get sexually harassed or assaulted. There's a clear difference between almost all and almost none. Why do you swim away from all sharks if not all sharks attack? Because enough do that it tells you something. And even then, only 16 shark attacks happen in the United States per year. 16! Way more than 16 violent assaults happen by men every year in the United States, and you don't see the issue? The study only covered a small group of women in a different country. Okay, one nationwide study in the US found that 81% of women get sexually harassed. Is that somehow significantly better? Think about it. Things like catcalling, begging for nudes, coercion of sexual actions. Those are harassment and assault. Most women experience all that. That's your peers, your family, your friends, and you don't care. You're taking your anger towards men's actions and you're deflecting the blame towards the victims. Perpetuating the issue either by ignoring it or actively adding to it gets real people hurt. It might not be all men, but damn it, it's enough. Now, you shouldn't be asking random trans people questions about being trans, but not being able to ask doesn't just make these questions go away. So I created a safe space for people to be able to ask them, and here were some of the most common. Your body doesn't just start making the amount it needs to because you've introduced the hormones, so for most people, it is forever. Yeah, it was pretty painful, but for most people, the pain subsides after a few months. I wouldn't say I thought there was a potential to regret it because I knew I wanted to start T. But I was concerned because some of the effects can be a little unpredictable. I came to the conclusion that the hate I receive for being trans is nothing compared to the hate I had for myself before transitioning. First, other people's opinions of what you do to your own body to improve your own life are irrelevant. And second, the type of people that are transphobic are just drowning in confirmation bias. They don't care about facts, logic, reasoning. All that is their problem, not mine. Yes, when you learn to put other people's opinions aside and live for yourself, it does get better, I promise. You deserve to live your life how you want to live it. So if we're gonna get personal, we have to start with the basics, and for me, that's my mental health. And we will do a deeper dive into mental illnesses at another time, but for now, we're just gonna cover mine and the effects they've had on my life. I have rapid cycling bipolar depression, complex PTSD, anxiety and panic attacks, ADHD, eating disorders, and OCD. As a result, I can't get a job, I've ruined almost every relationship I've ever had, I sold my car in a manic episode, and I destroyed my body. I have chronic stomach pain and I haven't had an appetite in over a year due to my eating disorders. I abused drugs to cope, which resulted in severe neurological damage, including but not limited to worsening of my already present speech impediments. I have motor tics. I don't have a short-term memory anymore, really. It's a lot. And it's taken me a long time to come to terms with the fact that none of that is my fault. It just isn't. But it not being my fault doesn't mean I'm completely helpless here. I do my best to manage what I can. I'm trans. Sick nasty, dude. What was that? What do I say? Listen, knowing exactly what to say when someone comes out is hard, so let's talk about the do's and don'ts. I'm a man. Does mom know? No, and I don't think mom knows. When someone comes out to you, treat it like they only want you to know. It's personal information that only they should be sharing. Check with them about who already knows and let them decide who to tell and when. I'm definitely trans. Oh, it's my fault, isn't it? You're not gonna be my anymore. What? Coming out is harder than you'll ever know, and being trans isn't a choice. Recognize that they're trying to be open with you and don't punish them for it. And could you imagine someone grieving your life right in front of you? We're still right here. All that's gonna change is we're gonna be happier, which is a good thing. Do what you can to ease the discomfort of coming out and let them know they're in a safe space with you. I'm trans. Nice. So about your private parts, how are you gonna date? Us coming out is not an invitation to ask personal questions. Let us tell you things if we want and when we're ready. So this is the difference between bi and pan. Cool, I think we got that already. What about demi, omni, poly? Okay, this is the difference between bi and pan and omni and demi. Wait, what was wrong with just bi and pan? I was just going into detail. Some people want a more specific label. Yeah, I don't like any of the more specific ones. I just want to keep mine. I mean, yeah, do that. That should go without saying. God, everything is just so complex. I'm so confused. Well, I'm sure someone can explain better than me. No. There are only two genders. Yeah, we weren't talking about gender. This person is biphobic. What? It's just, why do they all sound so similar? Because they're similar. So then what am I? Whatever your heart desires. TikTok you posted on 4/11/2021 has been removed for
Strawberry sky.